Thanks, Ihan. No pressure or anything.
No pressure. Crank up the heat.
Yeah, really. Hi, guys. So, as Ihan says, my name is Josh. I'll get that awful, ugly picture off the screen. Right, so I'll tell you a little bit about myself so you know where I'm coming from. I am a recovering journalist. I was in news for a little over 10 years. And quite a few of those years were spent here in Malaysia. I worked for Al Jazeera here in Kuala Lumpur. Very happy to live in this city and call it home. I'm originally from Singapore, lived in the Middle East, lived in a bunch of different countries. A few years ago, I had the opportunity to switch from news, which is mostly bad, right? But all news is bad, right? If it bleeds, it leads, doom and gloom, that's all we do, yeah. So especially if you work for Al Jazeera, then, well, every day you're seeing, dead bodies and all that stuff. So not happy stuff. So I decided to switch from bad news to good news. And had this opportunity with Our Better World, which is part of the Singapore International Foundation. And we asked ourselves, how is it that we're going to sell these causes? We're going to find people in Asia who are doing good, and we're going to tell their stories. And we asked, why is it that these stories of these people doing amazing things, people like yourself, right? Either you're already doing it, you're about to do it, you're thinking about it, you're all doing some sort of business to have some sort of impact, right? You all want to change the world in some way. But why is it that these stories don't bubble up? Why doesn't the media care about these stories? And the answer, we believe, is that, well, good news doesn't really sell, right? The audience doesn't care for it because, it's a bit goody two-shoes, it's a bit bland, it's not sexy. Yeah, no drama, that's right, very good. So I've gone around to speak to a few of you this morning. Some of you are doing some really intense work, working with youth, giving money away, working in child protection. If I pick on Doreen today, don't feel bad for her, okay? She and I know each other from some other life, and so yeah, I'm free to pick on her this morning. She's agreed, right, Doreen? Yeah. Okay, so enough about me. That's my background. So today we're talking about marketing your social impact. And when I was asked to do this by Amir over here, I was a bit curious because I'm not a marketeer, I'm not a marketing expert, and I was wondering, what can I bring to the table for you guys? So what I am is a storyteller. I tell stories for a living. I've been doing it all my life, whether or not it's on the news or what I do now at Our Better World. And the essence of marketing and selling your impact is the same. It's storytelling, right? It's being able to find your own story and to convey that story to an audience to make them care about your cause. So I've entitled the workshop today, Why Should I Care About Your Cause? Why should anyone care about your cause? So you're doing amazing stuff, or you're doing stuff that you care about passionately. So Magdalene, right? Met Magdalene this morning, working on protecting and saving children from trafficking, and sex abuse, right? Really, Star Wars. I am a Jedi, so there we go. I meant to do that. So obviously care, passionately about that cause, but why should anyone else care? How do we make them care? That's what we're going to be talking about today. So I'm going to try to get out of your way. All right, so this is an image of, what is this? This is somebody who has too much going on, right? He needs to be taking something to calm down. This is information. We are living in a time when there's information everywhere, and it's just assaulting us left, right, and center. So the theory here is people actually don't want more information. So they don't want to know that, okay, I don't know, 200,000 children suffer sex abuse in the world every day, or, in Malaysia, X number. I don't know. Give me a number, Magdalene. How many children estimated? 1 in 4 children in Malaysia. go through sex abuse, right? Shocking statistic, right? 1 in 4. But after a while, that number, it's like, okay, it's 1 in 4. It's a ratio. I think about it, I don't think about it. After a while, it's gone. Because it's information. What people really want is to feel. What do they want to feel? So they've done studies on what it is that people like to share on social media. So tell me what it is that you guys share on social media, whether it's Facebook, Twitter, whatever media. Anger. You share angry stuff, right? Stuff that you feel rage about. Is that right? I won't ask you, sir, what you feel rage about this morning, but okay, anger. Excellent. What else? What else do people share? Giving. To change people's lives for that day. Excellent. Something inspirational? Is that right? Okay, good. Anybody else? Funny, yes. Amusement, right? We all like to be amused. Promoting wellness, good. Health, wellness, yeah. Promoting wellness.
Experiences.
Your own experiences. Travel experiences. Food, also an experience, right? Your passions. So they want to feel these things, and then they want to share it. You guys, you want to feel and share this. Why? Because you want to make an impact on somebody else's life. And impact is a big word for a few letters, but you mentioned, is it Roxana? Roxana, you mentioned that you want to change that person's life for that day. Just make that person happy. Maybe sharing a joke. Maybe that's what they need that day. They just need a pick-me-up, right? Had a rough day, had to come to MaGIC, give a talk to a room of strangers, and they all greeted him with a bad stare in the morning, right? But you want to share something that helps the other person, have a pick-me-up, something good for that person. So how do we do that? How do we share something that will make an impact for that person and for other people? Storytelling is one way of doing that, and that's the only way that I know, so that's what I'm talking about this morning. So storytelling is a way for us to get our audience to care about what we care about. It is your answer to these two questions. What do you do, and why do you do it? Now, most people are perfectly happy talking about that. What do you do? Fewer people talk about and are comfortable with explaining why you do it. But often, it is the why that is compelling. So this is what we do at Our Better World. We tell stories and we inspire action. So we'll be talking about this a little bit today, why and how to tell your story, and how to reach and engage your audience. Okay? Some of you, I see, are taking notes. Thank you for the encouragement. That's very kind of you. We do have a cheat sheet, so at the end of this, I'll give you an email address. You can send me an email. I'll be happy to send along a cheat sheet, of whatever we put together. So not just the slides or anything like that. We've actually put together a proper cheat sheet, with some of the details. Yeah. So, why tell your story? This is why. These are some of the reasons why we tell our own stories, right? We can raise awareness for our cause. It can open us up to partnerships. Yeah. It can bring investors or donors, crowdfunding, right? Everybody go and find Doreen after this, right? It can bring volunteers, people who want to be involved in your cause. Because whatever it is you're doing, I guarantee you it'll be better if you're doing it with help. People who believe in what you believe in, who are passionate like you're passionate, and can come alongside you and do it with you. Right? So this is a more existential reason for telling your story. Why tell your story? You all have a compelling truth about what you do or want to do. I understand that some of you haven't started your social enterprises. You're at different stages of your social enterprise or the outfit that you're using to help people. But you all have a compelling truth. You all have something at the foundation of your cause. And if you can convey that to people, that draws people in. Because that truth, the why, that's the essence of your story. Are we okay for recording and all that? We're good? Excellent. So, because it is a workshop, you guys get to work. So, you will have post-it pads in front of you. Everyone take 3 sheets, please. 2 or 3 sheets. Pass them along to a friend next to you. So I'd like you to think about your story, what it is that you do, why it is that you do it, and imagine that a journalist, newspaper, TV, an online outfit is wanting to feature what it is that you do, why you do it. So think about a headline for your own story. If you could write your own headline for your story, what would that headline be? It could be a tagline. So the only tagline I remember is Nike, just do it. That could be a tagline. But think about a headline that you want to use to tell people. If you could only say one headline to people to explain what it is you do or why you do it, what would that headline be? Thanks, Rosalind, for passing those out. Appreciate it. So here's the tricky part, right? I'd like you to come up with 10 headlines. So take 3 minutes. Go ahead and start if you already know what you're doing. 10 headlines. 3 minutes, maybe 5. Think of 10 headlines, please. Go ahead. No word limit. Just, yeah. Redemption from guilt. Well, we decided that we wouldn't do that. We decided that, okay, we want people to come in and get involved because they thought the stories were authentic, yeah, were hopeful, were inspiring, that the stories gave. Oftentimes there are people who can't protect themselves, so they may be children, they may be marginalized communities, immigrant communities, for example. We want to give them dignity. We want to celebrate them as people. So I wanted to share a story that we did about this young social entrepreneur whom I met in KL, actually, in Cyberjaya, in Putrajaya, not far away. I found out she was doing this thing about sharks. Now, I don't care about sharks, I really don't. I think, if we eat them, we don't eat them, we hunt them, we don't hunt them, makes no difference to me. They're sharks, right? As long as they don't bite me, I'm okay. But she really cared about sharks. So when I met her and we exchanged cards, as we do here, her card was shaped like a shark. I was like, my word, this girl, she's a bit loony. But it was very clear she was passionate about her sharks. Now, I want you to take a look at that information and have a think in your head. You don't have to write anything down, but have a think about how would you tell this story? Right? She wanted to end shark fishing, right? She wanted to do this, by the way, in Indonesia, Lombok, Indonesia. Anybody from Indonesia here? There we go. All right, you guys know Lombok, yeah? Really, really nice, Lombok. Beautiful place. Have you all ever been to the fish market at Lombok? Southeastern tip of Lombok. All right? Singapore's Singapore's neighbor. So southeastern tip of Lombok, there's a fish market. And on any given day, I think most days you can see sharks there, right? They laid them out on the ground. When I went, there must have been, I don't know, 15 or 20 sharks. And the scary thing was they were all very small, relatively small sharks. What does that mean? It means that the big sharks are all gone, right? They've hunted them to where there are no more big sharks. Because, well, if you're a fisherman, you catch the big shark, right? Not the small one. So how do you tell this story? What about this story will resonate with an audience? Anyone? What are the elements of this story that resonates with you? And you think, the fisherman. Very good. What about the fisherman? Right? Okay. Don't kill your main actors, all right?
Praying to pets. Or these. Not gonna come close to your home anytime. Adopt a shark.
Okay? Very possible. Would you tell the story? What will you focus on? Ah, that's very good. Who are you targeting? Right. So who's your audience? Is your audience the fisherman? Okay. Sorry, what's your name? Hussein? Hussein says that his target audience is the fisherman. Who's your target audience? Consumers, consumption. Okay. Who else? Anyone else? The shark? I'm sure Yon is working on some technology that will get to the sharks very soon. So I'm going to show you just one, again, this is not prescriptive, this is how we did it, but there are many ways to do this, yeah? Have a look. Oh. Everyone close your eyes. Here.
Kerjaannya setiap hari menangkap ikan. Ya, cuman itu di sini.
Dia kena itu ikan hiunya baru kita senang, gembira kita. Kalau apabila tidak ada, mulailah kita susah di situ. Berusahalah bagaimana caranya supaya bisa untuk memberikan nafkah kepada keluarga.
My name is Kathy. I started the Dorsal Effect. It's an ecotourism business that tries to get shark fishermen to make an alternative source of livelihood rather than shark fishing. I'm trying to promote sustainable tourism so that Lombok still retains its charm, but more people get to see this charming side that Lombok has.
More people hear about it, more people come out, and then even the people in the villages and on the fishing boats say, "Oh, maybe we can stop killing all the fish. We can and the sharks and everything. We can make more money by showing them off to the rest of the world than by killing them."
I think it's good for everybody, good for Lombok, good for the local people too.
Really really good step in a step in the right direction. It's really impressive.
I can't describe anything that can top over this. This is like a paradise.
It's places where it's not even listed on the Lonely Planet or anywhere on Google. You can't Google search the places that we go to yet.
Beautiful. I'll be back again.
And when you see sharks in their natural habitat, I think that there's a point where something would change in you and you just really want your future generations to be able to experience that as well. Because, yeah, that's the dream of the dorsal effect.
Thanks, man. Thank you. Very kind. I don't know who that is, not related. So how many of you want to go to Lombok? Yeah? What's that going to do if you go to Lombok? You're going to be part of this ecotourism. That's what Kathy's trying to do. She's trying to get you, us, to just go. And honestly, the trip that she offers is a very simple trip. There are no frills, nothing. You go on this boat, you get out to these really secluded beaches, and you get to experience really raw beauty. And she's hoping that by doing this, the shark fishermen don't have to be shark fishermen. Because when she started digging, she found that actually the shark fishermen didn't want to be shark fishermen. It's a thankless job. They invest a fair bit of money to get out on those boats. They have to go for 3 weeks, give or take. 2 or 3 weeks, they're out on those boats to catch those sharks. If they don't catch sharks, they come back, they're in debt. Because they've borrowed money to stock the boat, food, bait, diesel, whatever, you name it. They've had to borrow money so that they can go on this expedition, and hopefully they come back with some sharks so that they can feed their families. Right? So, not so small a thing to make them your pet. You are, in a sense, making the sharks your pet. Basically, instead of killing them, you're making the habitat an attractive place for people to come. Right? Good point. So the fishermen, clearly we didn't do a good job in conveying that in the message. The fishermen become the tour guides. Right? They're still running their boats, same thing, but they're not going to catch sharks anymore. They're helping the tourists to explore that fairly remote part of Lombok. Yeah. The sharks are always consumed by people like me. Right? Chinese, eat in shark's fin soup, right? Been to a wedding recently? Yeah. No. So they're actually, very interestingly, they catch the shark. So there aren't that many shark trading centers in the world, and Lombok happens to be one of them because there are sharks off the shore. So different parts of the shark are used in different ways. So the fins all end up in Chinese restaurants somewhere in the world, right? That's how it works. But they make bakso in Indonesia. They use shark meat for that. And they do use that shark quite well. They really do use all the different parts. And these fishermen don't fin, they actually shark, so they actually catch the whole fish. But it's not sustainable. And like I said, when I was there, the shark were all very small. It means that they'd fished beyond a certain point, right? And also the 2 or 3 weeks that they have to go to get the sharks, because the sharks are no longer, the populations are going farther and farther out. Right? So sooner or later that's going to disappear, and then what are shark fishermen going to do? Yeah. In Lombok, Huh. Okay. Did not see that in Lombok. Did not come across that. Okay. We were in. So this happens. Yeah. 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 So that's a part of Lombok that we were not at. So this is in the southern end of Lombok, very rural, very. Yeah. So we don't. So there are very many stories to cover. So for us, there are different considerations for which stories we do tell and don't tell, and they're not easy to tell some of these stories. So as I was just explaining to our friends here who protect and save the children, a story that we just did recently, we just released it a couple of weeks ago, feel free to look for it online, is about these women who are trafficked from Nepal to India. So they're trafficked for sex work, for prostitution. And what happens is for the women who are trafficked, oftentimes it takes them, I don't know, X number of years, let's say 5 years, before they are free to go, right? Before their captors will let them go. Yeah, they are slaves, but their captors will, after 5 years, they're no longer of use to them, and then they kick them to the side, right? That's what they do. And so these women, very many of the women stay in sex work after they are free to go, because they've been trafficked from their home country. They don't know anybody where their destination, in this case, is Calcutta in India, and they don't know what else to do. That's what they've been doing for a few years. It's a horrible life, but they don't know any better. And so this woman in Calcutta is trying to help them by giving them a chance to make soap. It's a very basic thing. They make handmade, these ugly looking but really good for your skin type soaps, right? And the reason they do that, and the reason she does that, is to help them do something for dignity. And they feel that they can cross that line and say, okay, I think I can do that. I can make soap. We all can make soap. So, all right, I'll come and work for you and change my life. And so she's helping women do that. How can we be involved? We can buy soap, right? Because, well, hopefully we all use soap, right? And these ugly but useful soap, you can buy online. And so somebody who's sitting here in Cyberjaya can make an impact for a woman in India by buying soap. It's very real, it's very tangible. It's not going to change the world with you buying that 1 bar of soap or 100 bars of soap, but it is going to give that woman, her name is Josephine, who's helping these dozen or so women that she's helping at the moment, give her the opportunity to help more women, right? More people buy soap, you can help one more. That's how it works. Right. So back to doing work for you guys. So those post-its that you did, those 10 headlines you did a while ago, so I'd like to know how many of you actually came up with 10 headlines or more. 10 or more headlines. All right, there we go. Excellent. 9. Anybody got 9 headlines? 8 headlines. Yeah, good. Some people managed to get 8. How many of you didn't get more than 5 headlines? 5 or under? Okay. Many of you didn't. So those of you who didn't, this is not a test, and there are no marks and there's no punishment, but those of you who didn't get more than 5 headlines, I'd like to hear some of the reasons why you didn't get more than 5 headlines. You obviously believe in what you do. I don't doubt the passion that you have for your cause. Why is it that you couldn't come up with 5 or more headlines, 10 headlines, for your cause or social business? Anyone? Go for it. You didn't want to sound too generic, okay? Yep. So what stopped you from writing 10 headlines about your business or cause or social enterprise that wasn't generic? Yeah. Why wouldn't you write 10 headlines that weren't generic? Thinking too hard. Okay. Anybody else who didn't come up with 10 headlines? Okay, your story is simple and you're happy with fewer headlines. You're quite happy with the number of headlines that you wrote. Okay, good. Focus on one part. Okay, good. Anybody else? Not enough time. I'm sorry, my bad. Too many rules. All right. Welcome to my world. All right. So, any of you familiar with Upworthy? You all have seen Upworthy videos? Anyone? Yeah? Upworthy videos? Really powerful stuff online. Now, Upworthy, they're changing their model now, but what I'm telling you is what the model was previously. But Upworthy would work with curators across the world, and these curators, what they would do is they would scour the internet for Thai insurance videos. No, kidding. But mostly videos like Thai insurance videos. You guys have seen them, right? Or Thai mobile. They're all tear-jerkers. You want to go out there and buy insurance right now, right? Or buy shampoo or whatever it is, right? You've seen all these. They're amazing, these Thai videos. Yeah. And so Upworthy would find a lot of these videos, not just Thai insurance videos, but videos that had some sort of social impact, some sort of social cause, but they were amazing videos, and they would then make them viral, they package them and get them going, and it's not an accident that they're viral. They have a whole formula behind it. And one part of the formula was the headline. How would the curator package this story so then it's not their story, right? It's not even their story. So they're not particularly passionate about it. They may believe in the cause, they think, oh, that's a good cause, but it's not their own. But they can package the story in such a good way. And how did they do that? The curators went through this exercise with each story. They came up with 25 headlines. 25 headlines for the story. And then it'll move on. So they package the story, not just the headlines, but they write the text and all of that. And then it'll move on to the editors, who would look at the 25 headlines, pick the ones that they thought would work, and then they would use several. Not just one, but several, and then they would test. What does the audience respond to? So if I pick 3 headlines, or 4 or 5 headlines, and I put it out there, and within 24 hours I know which headline, same story, different headlines, I know what the audience is responding to. So obviously they know their analytics, they do all that background stuff really well, so that's why they know what the audience is doing. But within 24 hours, they know which headline, and therefore which story, resonates. Which one is relatable? Which one is simple enough that the audiences are getting involved. So the reason I asked you all to do 10 today is so you wouldn't stone me with 25. But 10 was to help you to think about your own story, your own cause, your own social business, beyond what you normally think about it. So we all have a certain perception about what we do, who we are, all of that, right? Because we're familiar with it. But that familiarity is actually not necessarily a great thing, because what's familiar to you is not necessarily familiar to your audience. So I want to encourage you that as you look at your own story, your own cause, your own business, your own impact that you're creating, I want to encourage you to think about it from different angles, in different ways. Not to be generic. Rebecca, was it? Hi, Rebecca. So not to be generic, but to be very specific about what it is that works for you about your story, what it is that you want to tell people about your story. But it may surprise you. It may not be what you've been talking about all this time. So those of you that have gone through MaGIC's amazing accelerator program, I'm sure Hee-Hon and his team have nailed it down with you guys on doing your elevator elevator pitch, right? You guys, I'm sure, can stand up and in 30 seconds tell me what it is you do, what your impact is, how you're changing the world. But I encourage you to look beyond that elevator pitch, beyond what you pitch to investors, and even what you tell yourself, to look more deeply into what you do. And so right now, I'm going to ask you to write down your story. So if you can now take, let's say 5 pieces. And write down, you don't have to use all 5 pieces, you can use 1 piece, I don't mind. Think of the most compelling story connected with your business, your social business, your cause, your social enterprise. Write that down on a post-it. Sorry? If you can sum it up in 1 word, Hussein, go for it. I'll hire you as a sub-editor. Yeah, go ahead, Rosanna. Yeah. What should you write? You write your story, 1 compelling part of your story. The most compelling story connected to your cause. And so this is connected to your headline exercise. What you do is you look at your headlines, your 10 or 5 or 3 or whatever, and write from there, right? That's your headline. Pick one of your headlines that most resonates with you, and then you actually write a story, short story, 5 post-it pads maximum. Write a story about your cause, your social business, social enterprise, something connected to it. No fiction, please. Unless your cause and all that is connected to fiction. So, yeah, sure, you can try that. I mean, one of the things that we talked about earlier today, somebody said, I think you said, authentic. So something that is real. Because audiences find it harder to take in fiction when it's to do with a cause. At least that's our belief anyway, but yeah. Oh, fictitious name? Yeah, sure. My name isn't actually Josh, by the way, so yeah. Yeah, there we go, okay. Yeah, true stories. Yes, Ted. The story can be told from any point of view, first person, third person, it doesn't really matter. All I'm looking for is for you to tell a story about your business, your social cause, your social enterprise, something to do with it. You want to tell a story to an audience that will get them interested in what it is you do and why you do it. It could be a personal story. If you're a founder, for example, it could be why it is you're doing it. You had a significant moment. You had a defining moment, maybe. Yeah? I know a woman in Cambodia who decided she had to, she was living here in Malacca actually, and she decided in Cambodia, she was on holiday, and she saw this kid pull out a bag from a rubbish bin. You know, it's plastic bag of drinks, right? Here in Malaysia, we do that. And it had all this melted ice in it. And he fished this out from this dump, rubbish dump, and drank the water, the melted ice. And in that moment, she thought to herself, I may not be able to change the world, but that kid shouldn't have to do that anymore. And I'm going to do something about it. And what she did was she moved to Cambodia, started a soup kitchen, and she feeds 150 to 200 kids every day. Right? And she had a defining moment. So it could be that. It could be a defining moment if you're a founder, or a defining moment for somebody that's connected to your business or social cause. It could be one of your beneficiaries. Yeah? It could be a volunteer who's involved with you. It could be the impetus for why it is that you're doing what you're doing. Anything that's connected to you, your work, that will make the audience sit up and care. Turn it down a little bit, please. Thank you. Sorry about that. Yeah, better? A little bit less, please? Thank you. All right, so I think we're in a safe space. I hope so. I think everyone in this room is interested in some sort of social impact. And, I'm going to assume that you guys are all good people, okay? So you should assume that about each other. So I want you to turn, so the way it works is you have a row, so don't huddle in your row because I think it's geographically a little bit difficult. So your neighbors behind you. So huddle in groups of, let's say 4. Yeah, we'll do about 4 people, okay? If you're here with a friend or somebody in your own organization, please huddle with somebody else, okay? Don't huddle with your own people. Yeah, if you can just get into groups of 4. And what I want you to do, I'll give you a second to organize that. I know it's a bit chaotic, but it'll be okay.
No, it's fine.
Yeah.
It's good.
You don't have to be don't have to shift your chairs if there's no space or whatever. Just kind of turn your body. As long as you can kind of huddle and talk to each other, okay? All right, but you need to listen up. All right. All right, guys, I'll let you do introductions and all that in a second, but you need to listen up so you know what to do. All right? Okay, this is what you're going to do. Whatever story that you've written, you need to listen up, because if you don't listen up and you make me come to you and tell you the same story again, I'm an old man. I can only do this once. All right. No, seriously. Listen up here, okay? Before you launch into your story and do your introductions, feel free to, introduce yourselves and then launch into your story. So what I want you to do is share your story, what you've written down, your headline and your story, with the other 3 members of your team now, okay? And then everyone will get a chance to do that. You get 2 minutes to do that. If it's 3, that's fine. If it's 4, that's fine. If it's 5, that's fine. But you get 2 minutes. Sorry, not 5. Maximum should be 4 in your group, yeah? So you get 2 minutes to share your story, and this is what I want the other people who are listening to the story to do. Listen up, because this is very important, okay? If you are sharing your story, I want you to share your story as earnestly as you can, with as much conviction and compassion and all of that as you can. If you're listening to the story, I want you to critique these stories in the most useful way that you can. So what I mean by that, I want you to tell the person who's sharing his or her story what it is about that story that works for you. What resonates? What's relatable? What is simple? Do you understand it? Do you get it? I want you to please try to use as positive. So don't mince your words. I'm not asking you to sugarcoat it or anything, but I want you to do it in a way that is constructive for that person. So, for example, you can say, all right, so Siva, your story about medical tourism, the part about alleviating poverty, that spoke to me because I see a lot of poverty in the communities that I'm in as well. So that is a way to tell Siva that this part of his story does something for me, okay? What's not okay is to say, okay, Siva, what the heck, it's medical tourism. Everybody's doing it. Why you tell this kind of story? That's not okay, okay? So please don't be tearing down people. You can say, Siva, medical tourism, I don't care about it so much. Yeah? Like sharks. I told Kathy, yeah, sharks, I don't know. Not much for me. It doesn't do much for me. You can do that. I couldn't really relate to your story. Please be useful that way, okay? Now, if you are particularly moved by your friend's story, those of you who've worked with deaf communities, you'll know how does the deaf hearing impaired community clap? Right. That's how you clap. Silent clap, okay? So if you're particularly moved, you want to encourage them, go ahead and do a silent clap, please. Okay? All right? So 2 minutes, please, and then switch. I will give you the 2-minute gong, and then you can switch. Okay? So I'll give you right now a minute to do your introduction. So go! If you finish before 2 minutes, go ahead and do the feedback already. Yeah? All right, you should be done with your first pitch, your first story, and you should be giving feedback, yeah? You should be giving feedback on your first story already. All right, guys, you have 2 minutes left. Should be moving on to your last story and the feedback for your last story. If you can't, that's okay. Okay, guys, time's up. I know many of you haven't finished your stories. All right, take the last minute, you guys. All right, guys, we really need to move on. I know you guys are involved in deep conversations. If you guys can all turn back, please. You don't want me to start singing, you guys. Come on. Maybe you want Doreen to sing. All right, come on. Everyone back. Now, please. I know you're really passionate about your causes. We need to move on. If you haven't managed to finish telling your story and getting feedback, very important, not just telling your story, but getting feedback on your story, please, after the workshop, spend a few minutes outside with your team and get that from your team. Okay? Why are we doing this? Why is it important to hear feedback? So I hope the feedback has been constructive for you, that you've heard from your teammates what it is that resonates with them. So very often, the stories, or our own stories, the parts that resonate with us, may or may not resonate with other people. And you'll be surprised, some of the parts of your story, which you think are quite mundane, quite run-of-the-mill, nothing special about it, maybe that's what's special to other people. So I want to encourage you to listen, not just to these 3 other people in your team today, but as you go out and you tell your story, to really listen. And I'll talk about that a little bit more shortly. So we move on to this, how to find your most compelling story. Right? So one of the questions that I get asked about Our Better World's content is how we find these stories. And there's no good way to answer that. It's quite complex. We do it in a variety of ways. But it all boils down to time. We spend time. We listen. Okay? So I'll walk you through this very quickly. Look beyond the obvious. So I've talked a bit about this. What you are focused on in your story may not be What resonates with people? Drink coffee like it's free and listen like you're on a date. We've all either been on a date or something like a date, right? On a date, we do really well to listen to the other side, right? Yeah? If you're talking most of the time on a date, you're probably not getting that second date, are you? Right? So listen. Listen to your community, the people you're helping, the people who are working alongside you. The more you listen, the more you'll be able to find the story that resonates with people. Ask good questions. What's a good question? Good question is an open-ended question that will allow the person you're asking to actually give you a proper answer. So what's not a good question is it working for you? Are you being helped? Are you okay? Right? Yes or no, maybe, and that's it. Those are the three answers you're going to get. And then you have to ask another question. But if you ask, can you tell me how buying my product makes you feel? Right? If you've bought my soap and you know that it helps these women, how does that make you feel? Or why did you buy my soap out of, the 4 gazillion other kinds of soap on the market? Why did you buy my soap? Right? Open-ended. So they will tell you something, hopefully, that will help you to better tell your own story, better market your impact. Listen to yourself. Okay? That's a very young Robert De Niro, right? The iconic "you talking to me." Listen to yourself, not asking you to go nuts, right, or go shoot anybody, but listen to yourself as you share your story. So not with investors, not with people that you do an elevator pitch to. Listen to yourself as you tell your own story about your passion, your business, what you're doing, as you talk to people you care about deeply, family, close friends, significant others. As you tell them about what you do and why you do it, listen to yourself. Because that story that you tell them is the closest story to your heart. Now, what you tell investors may be all pitch perfect and ready, or what you tell the people who are assessing your pitch or assessing your business, or you want to partner with them. You have a business, you have an agenda. But what you tell your closest friends and loved ones, family, is from your heart, right? You tell them, I do this because of this boy that I'm trying to help. He's really struggling. If I don't help him, I'm afraid he's not going to make it. That's a story you tell that's personal, right? And then test it out. So what you just did was exactly this. You tested it out. It only works as a test if you tell that story and you get some feedback and then you tell it again. Or you tell another story about your cause, your social impact. And then you listen again. And this is, in industry parlance, we say it is A/B testing, right? So we're getting the audience. So that's what Upworthy does. It tests its content on the audience. What are they resonating with? Which headline are they resonating with? So you can do the same. You tell your story, different facets of your story. And I want to challenge you to think about what you do in as many ways as you can. Because there are really many facets to your story. It may be very simple. You may be doing, like Siva here, some sort of medical tourism, but it's more complex than that, right? There are very many layers. And to find those layers and to test it out. So, coming to the last section on storytelling, how exactly do you tell your own story? So I'd like to suggest a few things to you all today. Again, it's not the be-all and end-all of social marketing, marketing your impact, but it's some of the things that we have learned along the way, and I'm passing that on because we think that these things helped us along the way. So being clear about your goal. What is that message that you want to convey to your audience? Right? What is that one thing, just one, that you want the audience to feel and to do. So be very clear about that in your head. And then, you need to determine your audience. Now, I often ask people whom we're trying to tell a story about, and ask them, okay, who do you want to target? Who's your target audience? Who's your primary audience? And the answer is often the world, right? The world, everyone. Anyone that has an internet connection. And the reality is that if you're talking to everyone, then you're actually talking to no one. Right? Because unless your story is absolutely universal, is one of those things that's just going to resonate from here to the ends of the earth, the chances are that your story won't be specific enough. It'll be generic. And then if it's a generic story, well, yeah, dime a dozen, right? We see that every day, all over the place. Once you've determined your audience, you cater your story to them. And how do you do that? These are just some of the ways, some of the things or the factors to consider. What kind of language do you use? You use a colloquial term, You use the vernacular, the local language? You use a language that can travel? Does your story need to go out internationally? Is your interest a niche interest, or are you trying to reach the public in a certain demographic? So you can slice this in various ways, right? Your audience can be through a demographic, so I'm only reaching men between 18 and 24 because that's the target audience for whatever I'm trying to sell. That can be a demographic. It can be psychographic. You're saying, I want to reach people who are interested in children, not in a bad way, but interested in helping children's causes, right? So how do we do that? We can find people online who do search words have to do with children, right? It can affect, if your audience is your young audience, your story will be told in a certain way. If it's an older audience, you need to slow it down for people like me, right? If you have thumping music and everything's moving too quickly, somebody like me gets a headache, and what I do, I click out. I leave. I don't listen to your story. I don't watch your video. I don't read your text. I don't look at your pictures. Take care of story basics. We've all learned this in school. Pretty standard stuff, who, what, where, when, why, and how. Make sure that you've covered these. I won't dwell much, on these because they're basics, right? And then find your canvas. So, at our Better World, I come from a text background, wrote for print, so that's how much of a dinosaur I am, and then wrote for online news. And then when we got to Our Better World, we realized that, fewer and fewer people are reading these days. So what do? Well, we do videos, film. Or we take pictures. Or we use some sort of infographic. Now, there are different options. These are only some of the options, by the way. There are other options. But we do that to get the best out of the story and to reach the audience that we want to reach. So let me give you an example of when it might work to have a text story. So if you have a lot of information, right? You have numbers like 1 in 4 children, right, suffers sex abuse, and you want to elaborate on that. What does that mean? What community, and so on? Then maybe it's text that you have to explain it in. Or an infographic where you can talk about a lot of things and put it into imagery that works for people, very simply explained, right? It can be moving infographics or static infographics. Some people, in fact, most people, once they see a video camera, especially if a video camera looks like that, where, like a real video camera. Nowadays, most people shoot on those 5D cameras that looks like a regular camera, right? But the moment they see a video camera, they freeze up. They cannot be normal. They cannot speak normally, right? So in that situation, trying to tell your story through them might be really difficult on film. Maybe a picture might work better, catching them in a candid moment. These are various ways you can do it. And often, you'll find that you do it in a combination of ways to really maximize the impact, right? What you want to get out to your audience. Simple things like watch your language, your jargon and corporate speak, right? We're all guilty of that. Whatever industry you're in, and we all are in some way involved in the social enterprise industry, we also have jargon, don't we? Those of us who have left corporate, we also do jargon. We say things like, we need to pivot, right? You need to iterate, and normal people will look at you funny. You're like, what on earth is iterate and what is pivot? Where are you pivoting to? Right? So be careful about what you say, because what is normal to you, because you mix with a bunch of crazy people like us, may not make sense to your audience. Right? And then I want to encourage you to start. If you haven't, and I'm sure most of you have, if you haven't started telling your story, and I was speaking to Ted before this, he was talking about, okay, how are we going to get this out, conceptualize it and all that. So I'm sure many of you are in the same boat, thinking about how do I talk about what I do and why I do it in a way that makes sense to people, to get them alongside with me. And I will say that one of the best ways, the biggest learning for us at Albertable was to do it. Just start. Find your stories. Don't expect them to be perfect or stories that will resonate. So that video that I showed you about the sharks is probably our most successful video in terms of numbers. Now, that probably got, between YouTube and Facebook, somewhere in the region of 1.5 million views, right? Now, that's not always the case. Some of our videos get 50,000 views. Some of our videos get 250,000, some 500,000, thereabouts, right? They vary. And the point I'm trying to make is, you have to do it to learn. If you're not doing it, and you're just kind of thinking, it's like, okay, maybe this, maybe that, and you don't start, then you'll never really know. So until you were talking to your teammates, you wouldn't really know what works for them as an audience. Okay, very quickly, we're running out of time. 10 minutes, thank you. So I'm going to switch gears slightly to move from the content part of things into getting it out there. So there are two parts, to this, right? We tell the stories and we inspire the action, right? So this is the getting out there to get to the audience. So you may find a great story, learn how to tell it in a really good way, and still hear crickets. So if you look at most content, and Ihon talked about this at the beginning, thank you for that, a lot of content around social enterprises, non-profits, good in general, a lot of that content is flat. Right? It's what we talked about in the beginning. Good news doesn't sell, bad news does, right? So you may be able to find your story and still not get it out. So some people make amazing content. I was recently in touch with an organization that helps trafficked women in this part of the world. They get saved, they get repatriated, and then they journey with them. This organization is called Haga. And they do some amazing videos, really, really good stuff. They are able to get survivor stories like you wouldn't believe, right? Really hard to get women to talk about that, but they do a great job. But they're not able to get these stories out to the public. So you have this wonderful piece of content that attracts a few hundred views. So I want to talk a little bit about getting it out there. I'm not an expert in this, but these are some of the things that we've learned, right? Your audience, presumably for most of us that function in this internet age, your audience is on social media. So meet them there. Go to where they are. These are some of the things that social can do for you. So aside from raising awareness, right, just pretty standard stuff, getting the information out there, you can also give your community, these are the people who are going to be walking with you, right, a place to gather. And it's a place, since they're gathered there, for you to understand your audience. So exactly what you did a moment ago, that little workshop, you can do that on a larger scale. Or you can ask your community, what's working for you, what's not? How can I do this better? That's my timer. Okay, which social media? There's so many channels, right? So I want to encourage you to look at your own content, look at your own story, your own business, and figure out which is the best social media for now, for this stage of your business, stage of your enterprise. Which one's best? So some examples here. We've got Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, and they do different things and work for different audiences. And quite importantly, this bottom line here, that's very important for you. Because if you're like many social enterprises all over the world, you're running this solo, right? You might get some help from MaGIC, for example, but it's your business and you're it. You're the founder, you're the sweeper, you're everything. So if you can't do social media 24/7, then maybe you want to pick one that is not active 24/7, like Facebook. You may not be able to handle Twitter, where it is that you really have to be on all the time. You're constantly having conversations, right? If you have an eye for photographs, maybe Instagram is your best option, right? Because powerful, arresting, right? So Facebook may look something like this, doing a post, gives me some option for information, we put it out there, right? We're calling for volunteers. Twitter, you're having a conversation. Those of you who know Grace Sai, right? We're talking about ourselves a little bit here because, well, that's what Twitter does. You're having a conversation with your community. It's ongoing. And for Instagram, where you have an arresting picture. Most handsome man that I know. Look at those eyes, yeah? Very rare that we get a powerful picture like that. This is a guy, by the way, who is a fisherman in eastern Indonesia, and he's also a librarian. Runs a library out of his home so that kids, and he understands this, he learned fishing from his parents, but he understands that the next generation, that's not going to take them very far. Right? So Instagram. So, I want you to think about your cause business. You thought about headlines, you thought about stories. Don't worry, I'm not going to make you work anymore. But think about your business or your social cause, your impact. If it were a person, how would he or she behave? What is that personality that you will bring to your audience? Is it your own personality as the founder or the main person in your outfit? It could be your own personality. It could be somebody else's personality. It could be a formal personality. You could be all very proper about it. But I want to encourage you to think about it in terms of being human. As you put out your story, instead of being all corporate and saying, well, okay, this is what I do, these are the people I help, I've been established for X number of years, this is where I'm going, and this is my 5-year plan, and, be human, be social. Because that's how we interact normally, right? When we are on social media ourselves, we don't speak like that. We behave like human beings. Okay, some of the things to consider when you get your information out there. We've talked about some of them already. And the one I want to talk about is the last one, social. So if you only could talk to one person, have a cup of coffee with that person, what is it that you would talk to that person about? About your cause, your business? How would you have that conversation? You wouldn't stand there and do an elevator pitch and then say, okay, thanks, gotta go, right? You'd actually have a conversation. And that's what you do with your story. You put it out there and they come back. You learn from that and you put it out there again and learn from that. And then on social media, the best part of social media is that you can very quickly learn what your audience's response is. You can't run from it, might as well use it really well. So Facebook Insights, Twitter Insights are okay, Facebook Insights are a bit better. Basically it tells you what you need to know about your audience, how they're responding to your story. Okay, so I'll just zip through this quite quickly. Right? You log in, your insights, I'm sure many of you know this. Facebook algorithm, how many of you know, I'm sure most of you are on Facebook, how many of you know how small a percentage of your posts reach your audience, your friends, your community? Any guesses? Yeah. 3%, yeah? Anybody else? Yeah. So right now it's gone down to 1 to 2%. When we started being quite active on Facebook, it was at 30%. So these are our community members already. These are people who already like us, yeah? They already follow us and so on. So out of 150,000 people on Facebook, it was 30%. Not bad, not great, but not bad. Now it's come down to 1 or 2%, right? Facebook chokes you because why? Because they went IPO, right? So their business, they want to make money. That was a bit scary. Okay, 2 more slides very quickly. So, how does it work? How do you get out to your community, to your audience? You need to engage them, right? They need to be commenting on what you share. They need to be sharing what you share. We talked about this, right? The true test of a story is to share it. Just give me a second. And if you're considering ads, and I'll be very brief about this, if you want to ask me questions about this, feel free to send me an email. If you're considering using ads to talk about cause, I want to encourage you that unless you sorted out the engagement, so ads will help you get reach, but they won't help you get engagement. So your story is what will get engagement. People will care about what you tell them if it's all those things that we've talked about today, right? It's authentic, it relates, it resonates with people, it's inspiring, and so on, right? And once you have that, even if you have a handful of people who are engaging with you, it's only at that point that you can think about increasing your reach. Because Facebook chokes you, you actually do need to put a little bit of money to get out to an audience. But if your content isn't engaging with the audience that you already have, this is a recipe for disaster. You're just going to reach people who don't care about you. And so you'll be paying money for absolutely nothing. Okay? All right. Social media, start with one. Yeah, magnify the moments of your defining moments. Be human about it. This was the storytelling part, right? The why we tell the stories, right? Look deeply for your own story, right? Beyond the obvious. Listen. Listen to yourself, test it on people, listen for the feedback, and then do. Start. Get going. Do it so that you can get the feedback. If you would like a cheat sheet, this is the email to send it to. storyteller@oubetterworld.org. Sorry? How do I know it's you? Because if you say Hussein, I would like a cheat sheet. I saw you at MaGIC. It's generally how we know it's each other. Haven't been on a date recently, have you? Sorry, Hussein. That was a low blow. All right. Just say, if you have specific questions, feel free to ask. I'll do my best. But yeah, so cheat sheet, just let me know that you want one. Storyteller. Better yet, sign up, join our community for ways of telling stories or more inspiring stories as an example of how you can also tell your own. Ihan, go for it.
Thanks, Josh. Give you a round of applause, Josh.
Thanks, you guys.
We will steal some time and ask maybe 3 to 5 questions. So this is the time for you to practice how to ask good questions. Okay? Keep it short, keep it relevant, keep it quick. So we will have a question there, Roxana.
Thanks, Eva. Hi, Roxana. Yep.
I learned from Facebook last time that you open the test for
Opener?
a contest like
Okay, yes, yeah.
because I wanted to send, but then
Oh, sorry, for Our Better World? You mean our good story pitch?
nearly going to send you
Ah, sorry, I don't know when, but the likelihood is we'll run one each year.
So are you receive like do we have to wait for the
No? Listen, if you have a story today that you feel passionate about and you think that Our Better World is a partner for you in terms of telling your story, anytime in your journey, feel free to drop me a line and pitch the story to us and say, hey, this is what we're doing. We think it may be compelling for you.
So by email?
Yes, by email. Storyteller at Our Better World. Yeah.
All right, next question.
Yeah.
Do we have a question at the back now? Any more questions?
Yeah. Yeah, go ahead, Ted. Yep.
So, yesterday we attended a session by Professor Wong.
Yeah.
And one of the ways to set up a social enterprise is to have two companies, one is for profit, the other one is non-profit.
Yeah.
So my question is that when we want to do impact marketing, which one do we market? Is it for profit?
Yeah. So you.
Because for profit is
Yeah.
trying to
So I got it. So this goes back to the question of knowing your audience and catering it to them. So I'll give you a very quick example. There are many food industries or food F&B outlets who are social enterprises. Now, you need to decide as an F&B, are people going to come to you because they want to eat good food or because they think they're going to eat and do some good? And most of the F&B outlets that we've worked with who are social enterprises realize that people won't come back if all they're doing is eating for good. So what they focus on is you are going to eat some awesome laksa, right? And then when you're there eating the laksa, then by the way, as you eat the laksa, you're helping some awesome people with special needs who are making your laksa, right? So you need to know your audience, because if you're looking for one time these people to come and eat for good, and then they go off and they never come back because, well, the food is, but it was for a good cause and I feel better about it, they're not going to come back. But if your laksa is awesome, your product is awesome, they're going to come back. And then the social message comes in as they're doing that, right? Short answer, I know, but something to think about. Go ahead, Ian.
Wayne is an advertising guy.
Yeah.
And he can give you a lot more.
Yeah, that's
You
right.
don't want to manipulate people.
Sorry, if you don't have or you have a talent in writing? Right? Right? Right. So if you feel that writing is the best way to reach your audience, then I recommend that you write yourself and get help with somebody to edit for you. The reason I say that is because while you can hire people to write for you, it's true, and that is one route to go, unless they are people who share your passion and cause, you're going to have an issue there. So we work really hard to find people who do content with us, right? So we have a small editorial team, but we work with many people all around the world, including Malaysia, to tell those stories, who are filmmakers and all that. Now, we say no to most people because they may be great technically, but they're not invested. They don't really care about that cause, right? But if they do care about the cause, I don't need your technical to be that great. I need to be good enough. But you come in and you'll do a kick-ass job because, well, you care about it, right? So if specifically on writing, I would say an editor can actually help you to articulate what is in your heart. That often helps. You don't need somebody to write on your behalf necessarily.
All right, thank you very much, Josh.
Thanks, you guys. Thanks for participating.